This video is brought to you by Squarespace. Whether you need a domain, website, or online store, make it with Squarespace.
Hey guys, in this week's video we're going to be doing something a little bit different. What I have here is a ring that I made probably about 6 months ago now, and it's a meteorite ring with a carbon fiber liner. And as you can see, I left it in acid for way too long, and there were some portions of it that just got completely eroded away. And so I didn't know what to do with it, but I had a guy reach out to me on Instagram. He's one of my previous customers, and he was a really cool guy to work with. And he had an idea. He wanted me to take the inside of this, it's got carbon fiber in it, replace that with superconductor, and then fill in all these cracks with this white glow powder. And so that's what we're going to be doing today. This should be an absolutely insane ring once we have the glow powder filled in there, as well as that superconductor liner. So the first thing that I'm going to do to the ring is I'm going to fill in all of those cracks with this glow powder here. And the reason I'm doing that first instead of removing the carbon fiber is because right now it's really fragile, and so I don't want it to be too weak and have it break. And so we're going to reinforce it with the glow in the cracks, and then I might even put a little bit more reinforcement around it that we'll remove later. And then I'll remove the carbon fiber from the inside. We'll then cut our piece of superconductor and get it to fit perfectly. And then we'll bond the two together, polish, finish it all up, and we should be left with some really cool results. And of course, we'll etch it as a finishing touch.
So to start off, I'm going to be using my metal bandsaw to cut off a slice of superconductor. I'll get this disc cut off, and then I'm going over to my lathe and I need to hollow out the inside. And so I cut a hole in it with the drill bit first, and then I use the boring bar to widen that out a little bit more. At that point, I can mount it onto a ring mandrel and then do some of the machining on the outside. But I'm going to set it aside for now until we have the meteorite piece a little bit further along and ready to combine the two materials. Now I'll be going back to the meteorite ring, and I'll be filling all of those voids with our glow powder. And my technique is fairly simple. I'm just putting glow powder in the cracks and smoothing it over with my finger. And then the most important part here is that I'm using a super thin super glue. It's thin enough that it's able to get into all the little cracks and completely absorb into the glow powder itself. That way this will be a lot more durable and have a lot better of a life. Whereas if I used a more regular super glue, it would just have a thin layer over the top of it. And if that ever chipped or wore off, you just have the powder bare and raw underneath, and it would just fall out. Now that I've filled in all of those voids, the ring is a lot stronger, and so I'm able to put it into the lathe, and I need to get rid of the carbon fiber liner that's currently in it. So I'm using a boring bar, and I'm very gently cutting it away until we're back to the bare meteorite. Now I have the meteorite piece ready to be combined with the superconductor, so it's time to switch back over to that. I've got it mounted on my mandrel here, and I just need to trim it down and even it out. And so I'm using my lathe cutter here to do that. And once I get it to the diameter where it will nicely fit inside the inside of the meteorite, that's when we're going to go ahead and glue the two together. Now to combine them, I'm again using my super thin CA adhesive, and the reason I need to do this is because it actually uses capillary action to seep down into any of the cracks here. So again, I don't want to use any of the regular stuff, it's just going to stay on the top, whereas the super thin stuff, it gets completely down in there and fills in any of those cracks. Now that I have both halves of the ring combined, I need to do a sand and a polish on both the inside and the outside, and this is going to take a minute, and so I thought I'd use this time to tell you about today's sponsor, Squarespace. Now you guys have probably heard about Squarespace before. They are one of the most common sponsors on YouTube. They work with a lot of different creators, and so I won't waste a lot of your guys' time telling you about the features. I'll go over it briefly, but what I mostly want to focus on is my personal experience, because I personally have had a wonderful experience with Squarespace. Squarespace is where I built my very first website for this company. It took me just a few hours. I did it all in one evening. It was super easy to do, and most importantly, it was intuitive. And so this took a lot of the frustration out of it. It was super simple to select the theme, format how the menus worked, as well as just add the product listings, all of that. It was very easy to do. And if you didn't know, Squarespace is what's called an all-in-one platform. That means you don't have to work with different websites or companies or anything like that to get your entire website up and running. That makes it so much more seamless and easy to do. You don't have to install anything. There's no patching. There's no upgrades. You don't have to make things compatible. It just works, and it's so simple. They also have award-winning 24/7 customer support. This can be very helpful when you're building a website. You'll often run into little issues where you can't find a certain feature or setting, and just a little bit of help from customer service can save you so much time. So this is very helpful to have. And lastly, they have a domain service. This just makes it really easy for you to manage and transfer any of the domains that you own. So if you're in a situation like I was a couple of years ago where you want to start an online store, I cannot recommend Squarespace enough, and I am so glad to have them as a sponsor for this video. So head over to squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, you can use the link that we have on screen right now, and that's a special deal for my viewers. You'll get 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Now back to the ring. You can see we've got it all perfectly sanded and polished. It looks good. We're ready to etch it in the acid. And so what I've got here is muriatic acid mixed with hydrogen peroxide. That's to speed up the reaction. And I'm going to leave it in here for about 15 minutes. Now that I've got it etched, I get rid of the acid that was on it with some baking soda water. That just neutralizes it and gets all the acid off. That makes it safe to touch. And now our final touch, we're going to polish the inside. The etching actually messed up the copper a little bit, and so I'm just using this buffing wheel here and I'm polishing that inside, bringing that shine back. And that's it for this ring. I really like the way that it turned out. You can see that on that glow powder, there's some edges there where some of that acid was able to absorb into the glow powder, and I'm still trying to work out a way to get that out of there. I've got a couple of different ideas on what I could do, and so stay tuned. You can follow me on Instagram. I'll probably post a photo there when I'm finished. But that's going to be it for this video, guys. I just want to thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, you can give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed already, be sure to do that. That way you can see all of my future videos. As always, I've got all my different links down in the description below. So there's a link to my ring website where you can buy the rings. There's also a link to my supplies website, and that's if you want to make rings. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.